what to do about this ugly jumpsuit then. Because, you know, the thing I love about this is the fabric. It's like a steel silver sort of a colour, but it's got this rainbow holographic shimmer to it, which it only shows up in certain lights, so it's not always that obvious. But if you were at Deal Pride this year, you may have seen me bobbing about in a donkey outfit, which was lots of fun. And I think as grown-ups we forget to have fun. And I want to lean more into this, so I want to lean into more sort of 70s disco funk kind of outfits where you have fun. They're ridiculous, they're glittery, they're shiny. And when I saw this fabric, I realised that it had a lot of potential, but not as that jumpsuit. This waistline, no, not good. I am not the right shaped body to make what this was originally work. But this year particularly, I have been into crop tops and vests and that sort of thing, and I am enjoying life. And I realised that the waistline on this is very similar to the waistline on this one. So what we've done is, this is back to front. That's actually the front of the garment as intended. But on me, I found that if I wear it back to front, it fits me better, for whatever reason. I'm sure I could take the pattern apart and work that out, but I'm going to save myself some work. So I've taken the very long hidden zip out of the front. That's gone into my storage. I'll use that in something else. And I've replaced it with this zip, which is from a sort of waterproof coat that had worn out. We salvaged the zips because they're pretty good quality. So that gives me the fastening on the front. Don't really need it to get in and out of it, but it does just help aesthetically. I want to do something with the zipper pull later, but we'll come to that later. The only other thing I need to do on the front here, after I've put the zip in, is join this seam back together, where there was the old zip, and turn the hem. All the rest of the work on this is done for me. It's, you know, there's no separate sleeve on this, it's all one piece. And I don't need to then worry about redoing the collar. I don't need to do any of these seams here. So this is a lot less work, which is great. I am going to run it up on the Singer, which does mean I'm working with a stretch fabric on an old-fashioned machine doing a straight stitch, and I know technically you're not really supposed to do that. But it will work fine for what we're making here. And then this garment will be done. So that leaves us with the rest and what I'm going to do with that. And I had a little bit of a rummage. Now, the great thing about this sort of fabric is you can fold it down to nearly nothing. And obviously the bottom half of this is a pair of trousers. So that's what I'm going to do with it. I found a zip left over from the biker jacket project. Do go back and watch that series. That's one of my favourite things I've ever made, which I think is going to be just about right for the fly. I've got the belt, which I should be able to salvage for a waistband and any of the extra bits and pieces. And then we've got the legs. So I've split these up. And there's a good amount of fabric there. There's almost enough, exactly, to do the legs. So I'm going to have to piece something in with this just to make it work. But look how, it's such a nice drapey fabric, this. It's so good. And I had a look in my pattern stash, and I found a pattern I've not used for years. I don't get rid of patterns, especially menswear ones, because they're hard to get hold of. And we are going to go with this Birder pattern from the early 2000s, and I really like these. And the reason I stopped making these was I put on a bunch of weight and I got too big for the pattern. Couldn't find it anywhere in the size I needed, so I just waited until I'd lost some weight. And I think I've got the makings of sort of a 70s sci-fi space inspired sort of a thing here. Which should be quite fun. let's get this on the sewing machine, I guess, and let's see what we end up with. You can see in the background as well some of the other garments I've got here. These are these are all part of this thing that I'm working on. I'm not entirely sure what the character is yet, so we're just sort of tweaking and evolving as we go. But I do know silver and rainbow glitter is the thing. Now, for Pride, I needed a bag. And ideally, I wanted a bum bag, or what is it you call it in America? A fanny pack. But they were all a bit boring. I didn't have a lot of time, and I didn't have anything in the stash. So we went to TK Maxx, not sponsored, and I found this kid's handbag. It used to have some little tassels on it, and it had a really big long shoulder strap. But the size of it is spot on. It's the right kind of fabric. It's covered in just little bits and pieces I picked up at Pride, and it's going to get more as we go along, I'm sure. The belt is another TK Maxx item. It's some sort of jewelled, bedazzled ladies' belt thing, but it's the right colour and it matches really well. The coat that I salvaged this zip off had reflective strips, and they were just right for belt loops on the back of this. So that turned out to be a great little bag. And that's the great thing about this little bag. It just, it doesn't go so well with this outfit, but it's spot on, and it's just big enough for me to put my phone and my wallet in, and any little extra bits and pieces that I picked up on the day. So this is a great little addition to the outfit, and very, very minimal cost to make it, which was exactly what you want, really. Other things that we have, I have been making so much use of charity shops at the moment. There's been some great stuff popping up. But I found this top, and I like this top. I found this top. Again, charity shop find, but it didn't used to be a top like this. I've turned it into sort of a short-sleeved sort of shirt. There's no buttons, there's no collar or anything like that on it. Originally, this was a wrap-over top with an empire line waist and weird sort of really tiny trousers on the bottom all as one piece. Awful, absolutely awful. I can't imagine anybody looking good in it, but maybe somebody does. But I wanted it for the fabric because this is glitter-flocked black velvet. Absolutely superb. Wore this to the after party at Deal and just, loved it to pieces. It's one of my favourite garments. It works well for the donkey character, but it's also one that is just going to be regular rotation in my wardrobe. I like it that much. I just wanted to figure out what I could do to make this work for my wardrobe. And the easiest thing to do was split it at the waist seam and take off the wrap, the sort of overlapping section. Square it off on the front, and that dealt with the top. For the bottom, I split the centre seam on the trousers shorts situation that was going on the bottom, squared it, and then rotated it round on here so that what used to be the side seam is now the front seam. I really should have recorded it to explain it better. Sew that back onto the waist, hem the front line here, leave everything else as it was made to go on the racks at New Look, and then we are done. We have a really nice sort of buttonless shrug shirt situation, which is really comfortable and looks pretty good on, and a lot less work than you might expect. I can just layer it with whatever I want, and as evening wear, it's great because it's a warm summer's evening. You're not too hot. You can't really fasten it, but that doesn't matter. I'm never going to fasten it up. It just goes over and it's great, and I love it. So that's in regular rotation now. This one, well, it has one problem, one big problem. Whenever I've worn this, it leaves a trail of sequins everywhere. It doesn't seem to show any signs of stopping. It's also just about impossible to wash, which is slightly problematic. It's kind of a surface wash only thing. It didn't start out like this. I've got two arm warmers which fit like so. Arm warmer in name, they don't actually provide any warming whatsoever. So this is, again, modular costume happening. And to make these, I just took the regular sleeves off the garment, chopped them to the length I wanted, and then put some elastic and bias binding on the top, just so they don't drop off my elbow. So for the top here, this didn't look like this when I got it. I'll just drop a picture in here so you can see what I started with. Not a terrible garment on me. Again, another garment where it's not designed to be menswear in any way, but I don't care, I want it. Originally, it had a stretchy silver spandex lining, which made it very difficult to put on and very hot, which is just unpleasant. This fabric doesn't stretch. This is just a sequined net fabric. So there's no stretch here, there was stretch on the lining, so when you put it on, it would try and roll up on itself. It was a nightmare. Also had the V-neck, which I'm not a fan of a V-neck these days. But overall, the thing actually fit me fairly well, which was a bit of a surprise. So I copied the neckline off this top, which is one of my favourites, and I used the armholes that were already here. So I just chopped off the sleeves, and that gave me the armhole shape that I wanted. The length of it is absolutely spot on for me. I didn't need to change that at all. And I got some silver bias binding, some satin, just to catch all the edges, make it look nice and smart. I'm really pleased with this one. It's incredibly, incredibly bright. In daylight it is, like when you're outside, it's ridiculous. It sheds sequins at a quite alarming rate. It doesn't really have any bald spots on it, but every time I move the thing, it sheds sequins, which winds everybody else up, but I don't care, really. So yeah, you can do a lot with just any garment that you find in the shop, just by changing things like a neckline, pulling the sleeves off, making sleeves shorter, dismantling the pieces and then putting them back together in a slightly different order. This one, I don't know where it's from originally, but I couldn't buy this. This is what I was looking for the costume, and I could not find this anywhere. So my only option really is to make it. And £5 from a charity shop, I'm not going to complain at that. The garment isn't going to waste, it's going to get plenty of wear and plenty of use. It layers up with that other black velvet top. I've got these to change the look out if I want to, and I've obviously got other bits of jewellery and things I can use as well. I think for what this started out as, I think that's pretty good. And it goes with lots of other things I've got, so you know, have a play with what you've got. You never know what you're going to make, what you're going to find, and clothes like this deserve a second chance. And you can, you know, pair it up with other things that you maybe have made. I like both of these. I think they work really well together. And of an evening, when you've got evening lighting, it's, you know, it's brilliant. People are going to notice you. After some fiddling about yesterday, I got my overlocker working again. And that means that I can speed this project along a little bit, because now I can do these seams, which on stretch fabric is kind of vital. You can do it without a seam like that, but it's quite difficult. I'm going to put the zip in, do the centre seam, turn the hem, and then this top is finished, because I'm not changing any of the collar, I'm not changing the sleeves or body or the way these are hemmed, because I'm happy with this as it is. And you can finally see what this fabric actually does. It's quite difficult to capture on film, but it does have this wonderful rainbow glittery shimmer thing going on, which is great. I love that. The zip I'm using on here is salvaged from another garment, an old coat, and the zips were still in good shape, so it made sense to use them here in this one. They're a nice silver colour, so they'll match everything else, and I want a nice visible zip on this. I may top stitch on here, I'm not sure yet. Let's get the other side on and then I'll be able to decide. It might just look a little bit smarter. With the zip inserted, we turn the garment inside out, right sides facing, and then we're going to sew up until we get to the bottom of the zip here. Just be careful when you do sew this that you don't go over the teeth, because that will break a needle. Turning it right side out, you can see how that catches the bottom of the zip there, and I think I will top stitch this just to stabilise the front seam, just make it look a little bit nicer as well, and yeah, I think that's just going to be a little bit better, and it's a nice easy one to do that. You just have to be a little bit careful when you do this that you don't sew your back to your front, so feed that through first. And then we have the fun of trying to figure out how to do this next bit. I can't press this fabric because of what it is. And pinning it is quite tricky for this bit as well, so I'm just going to do it this way, which is a little bit risky, but we should get away with it. Just be careful as you come down to the bottom of the zip, again, that you don't catch the bottom of the zip there, because you don't want broken needles. And we'll just go to the end. I'll repeat this on the other side. It has given a slightly nicer finish to the zip on there. It just strengthens this seam here and just stops it rolling into the zip as well, which is good. Adds it a little bit more strength, a little bit more rigidity down the front as well. Although this fabric is very, very slippy and very difficult to work with. It's not as smooth as it might be, but that's okay. I actually don't mind how this looks, because when it's on, it's fine. And because of the zip, which I can't do one-handed, that changes the way the whole front looks anyway. So this is perfectly fine. We've only got one job left to do, which is to turn this hem on the bottom. The top I don't need to do anything with because it's already got the trim there. We've sewn the zip down nice and secure. Just need to take off these loose threads, and that is perfectly fine. If you're using a more basic machine like this yourself and you're trying to do stretch fabrics, they don't always like it. Mine's not a big fan. So what I found helps is, as I'm feeding it through, if I just put a little bit extra tension on the fabric as I go through, that just seems to help the machine feed it through without bunching. I'll show you what I mean. You don't want to stretch it to its absolute limit. You just want to put a little bit of pressure on, and that just helps level everything out. It also means that your stitches have got just a little bit of give in when you wear the garment without it messing up the tension too much. I know there's other ways of doing it, but this machine only does a straight stitch. It doesn't do anything else. So this is the workaround I have with it. All sewn up. The one addition I did was on the hem. After turning it once, it was a bit puffy, so I put a second line of stitching along the edge just to square everything off a little bit. Now, there's some issues with this fabric. I don't like working with stretch fabrics because of it. The side seam here is trying to pull up a little bit. Don't know why, just is. The back, I'm quite happy with the back. That looks pretty good. This is how I was hoping the whole seam would go. This side seam, not so bad. And then of course we have the other minor issue on the front of it pulling in this sort of X pattern. But I'm going to pretend that's a design feature and we want that. Another thing that hides it, of course, is you can just unzip the thing and it then gives you sort of a lapel-ish look because the inside of the fabric is black. I do want to get a better zip pull than this. This is a bit too basic. I'd like a big sort of silver ring or something like that. I think that would look a lot better. So I'll see what I can figure out for that. But fundamentally, this top is done, and this was a fairly easy one to do. It hasn't really cost me anything. I've used the garment as it was. I've just chopped the trouser section off, split what was the back seam out, took the old zip out, put a new zip in, and it's ready to go. And this should work really, really well for the costume that I'm putting together. Next we'll deal with the jeans, where I'm using less of what the thing was originally. I basically stripped it down into its component parts, fabric-wise, and I'm rebuilding as though I've bought some fabric. Personally, I think that's a little bit like cheating. This is a lot more how I wanted to do things, but needs must. And that one's a little bit more complicated, and hopefully it behaves a little bit better than it did here.